Before looking into the mythological inspirations that Nefer has, I don't know what I was expecting, but what I found is really fascinating. In this video, I'll be taking you through the mythological inspirations that Nefer has, so buckle up. Let's start with the most prominent goddess that Nefer is inspired by, whose clues we can find in Nefer's title. Nefer's title is the shadow-bearing serpent, and even when we look at her design, she is covered with snake motifs, especially the crown or tiara around her head. The piece that is right above her forehead is, in my opinion, an abstractified version of a snake. You can also see this snake symbolism when you look at any depictions of pharaohs. They usually have a headpiece with a cobra around their forehead, and this cobra on the pharaoh's heads is a symbol called Uraeus, and the Uraeus and the snake symbolism all over Nefer refers to the same goddess, who is Wadjet. Wadjet is the protector god of Lower Egypt, and she is usually depicted as a cobra, sometimes with wings, sometimes with feminine human features, and she also has a sister named Nekhbet, who is similarly the protector god of Upper Egypt. And Nekhbet is depicted the same way as Wadjet, but with a vulture instead of a snake. Wadjet has a few stories which explain why she becomes the protector god. Wadjet is supposed to be the daughter of the sun god Ra or Re, and he had asked her to be his eyes to protect him from unforeseen danger, which she does extremely well, and thus he gives her the title of being the protector god of Egypt and the pharaohs, and thus he gives her the title of being his protector, the protector of Ra. And since the pharaohs are pretty much an extension of Ra's power, she is by extension the protector of the pharaohs, and by extension a protector of Egypt itself. Wadjet and Nekhbet's origins are a lot older than dynastic Egypt. They stretch all the way back to pre-dynastic Egypt, which shows how old this symbolism is and how this has been used for thousands of years by the Egyptian dynasties. When we look at how pharaohs and their queens are usually depicted, they always have either the symbolism of the cobra or the symbolism of the vulture, which is either Wadjet or Nekhbet's symbolism. Nefertiti, for example, is depicted as having a cobra, which refers to Wadjet, whereas Nefertari is depicted with having the vulture's wings, which is a reference to Nekhbet. And I already mentioned that I think that the crown on Nefer's forehead is a reference to the cobra, which would be Wadjet, but I also think she has the symbolisms of Nekhbet. I think the rest of her headpiece, the part that goes behind her head and around her head, are the vulture's wings, similar to how Nefertari is depicted, but this is again very abstractified. So this shows that Nefer has not only the symbolisms of Wadjet but also Nekhbet. This heavily implies that she is royalty. The fact that she has the symbolisms of the protector gods of Egypt, which would only be found on Egyptian royalty, and it is such a prominent feature on her, and there's a lot more symbolisms that imply this, not just Wadjet and Nekhbet symbolisms, but this shows that Nefer is royalty. And given how she also has these triangle symbolisms everywhere and these holographic clones that she makes, I have a feeling that she's connected to King Deshret. She might even be a blood descendant of him, because there should be some blood descendants of Deshret still out and about in Tewar. Also, her banner is titled as the Crimson Sands, which is a direct reference to Deshret, who is the Scarlet King. Scarlet, crimson, close enough. Next, the motif I want to talk about is the eye motif she has. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this hieroglyph. It's one of the most famous hieroglyphs, but there are two versions of this, a left eye and a right eye. The right eye is usually the eye of Ra, whereas the left eye is the eye of Horus. And since Nefer has this symbolism going on her left eye, this references the eye of Horus. What does the eye of Horus represent? The eye of Horus represents healing. There's a story where Thoth heals Horus, and that's kind of how the eye gets its symbolism and meaning. Oh, also the eye of Horus is called the Wedjat, which is just swapping two vowels from Wadjet, Wedjat. I'm trying not to stutter when I make this video, but yeah, the Wedjat is associated with healing, but it also has an association with the moon. Healing in Egypt has always been associated with the god of the moon, who is Khonsu. I talk about this in my video on Nahida, but cultures across the world have attributed different meanings and symbolisms to the moon, and I find Egypt's attribution to be very interesting. The moon is responsible for safe travels during the night, which is pretty expected, but also because it shifts phases from being a crescent to full to gibbous to crescent again, this the Egyptians saw as process of healing to completion, and that's why the moon is also associated with healing. So Nefer having the Wedjat symbolism, which is a reference to Horus, who is a son of Ra. Wadjet is also a son of Ra, but she also references Khonsu, who is the moon god, which is completely unsurprising to me. I cannot stress how predictable this was to me, because in my Llama video, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already, I talk about how I think every faction of Nordcry represents a different moon god. I've already made a video on Llama, I've written the script for Flynn's, and this is my video on Nefer, and I am 100% certain that each of them represents a different moon god, either from the same culture or from different cultures. So Nefer having reference to a moon god is very unsurprising to me, because it's Nordcry, everything is moon based. And again, having her have the symbolism of Horus, Ra, Wadjet and Nekhbet, and even the Wedjat, all of them reinforce that she is royalty. The next most prominent symbol I think that Nefer has is the crisscrossing symbol on her waist. When you look at how kingship is represented or depicted in the Britannian Empire, for example, or Christianity, it's usually depicted as having an orb and a scepter. And having the orb and a scepter symbolizes that you have the authority to be a king. You can see this performed in the Britain's royal family's coronation till date. Similarly, the Egyptians have a symbol for royal kingship, which is the Hekha and the Nekhakha, and I think the Britannian cultures copied this from Egypt. The Hekha and Nekhakha are always depicted as being held by pharaohs because it symbolizes their kingship. Let's have a deeper dive into understanding what these represent. The Hekha is supposed to be a crook. It's supposed to be a shepherd's staff with a hook at its top, and this is supposed to symbolize their role as the protector of their people. A shepherd protects his sheep. Whereas the Nekhakha is a flail. It's supposed to be like a staff with a bunch of whip-like appendages going out of it, and this could have two meanings. Either one is to aid in agriculture, or alternatively it's to protect their livestock. Again, this symbolizes their role to provide for their people. The Hekha symbolizes their role to protect the people, whereas the Nekhakha symbolizes their role to provide for the people. Again, if what I'm thinking is right, and that symbol on Nefer's hip is supposed to be again an abstractified version of the Hekha and the Nekhakha, then this is again reinforcing her to be royalty. Speaking of royalty, when you look at Nefer's name, you probably think she is a reference to Nefertiti or Nefertari, but the word Nefer itself just means beauty. And what do I think refers to among these three options? I think it refers to all three of them, because so far, Lama is inspired by the goddess called Lama, Flynn's is inspired by the god named Flynn's, so Nefer I think is also inspired by Nefertiti, Nefertari, and just the meaning of the word Nefer, which means beauty. But to me, her design also screams Cleopatra. Everything from her hairstyle to the ornaments she has to the way she's depicted in her ultimate. That's why I did a little bit of digging into the ornaments that queens usually wear, and the most prominent ornament other than the headdress and crown is this ornament they have around their shoulders. Apparently it's called a necklace, even though it goes around their shoulders. It's called an Usekh, and clearly Nefer also has an Usekh in her design. And the Usekh has a very interesting meaning. It is supposed to be a reference to the Egyptian god Atum, and Atum is the progenitor god of Egypt. He is similar to Ymir from Norse mythology, or similar to Purusha or Adi Shakti from the Hindu pantheon, or similar to Izanagi and Izanami from the Shinto pantheon. And the Usekh is supposed to be called the garland of Atum, and it's supposed to have 9 markings or lines on it, which is supposed to symbolize Atum reuniting with 9 of his children. And again, this is a reference, or this is supposed to imply divine authority for royalty or kingship. But the Usekh on Nefer's design also has this zigzag pattern around it, and the zigzag pattern is a hieroglyph that represents water, chaos, possibly destruction, because water has always been associated with destruction in ancient civilizations. And what do you think this means? What do you think the water represents here? I think it's very interesting. It could go either way, because Columbina Kutar, the goddess of the moon, is a hydro user. The chaos part of water could also be a reference to the primordial waters or the abyss. So Nefer, being the god of protection and having water hieroglyph all around her, could symbolize that she could play a role in protecting Tewat, or Nordcry at least, from an upcoming chaotic, destructive situation. animation. The other hieroglyph that's very prominent all over her design, like I mentioned, is the triangle motif. And the triangle hieroglyph is a direct reference. It just translates to giving. This is what ties everything I've mentioned so far from her mythological inspirations together. Wadjet, Nekhbet, Horus, Ra, Wedjat, the Usekh being a reference to Atum, the waters of chaos, the royalty she has because she is a reference to the queens of Egypt, and the Hekha and the Nekhakha. All of these, if you combine it with the triangle hieroglyph, it implies that it is giving that to her. I mean, she is certainly giving a lot. Is that how you say it? I'm new to these kinds of terminologies. She is giving, let's just say that. This shows that all of these symbolisms is being given to her. She is being given the seat of royalty. And tying this with, again, like I mentioned, the Deshret connections that she has, I think she might be a blood relative of Deshret, which would make her a princess of Sumeru, which is super cool. I haven't looked into Nefer's lore extensively, but I wouldn't be surprised if at a later point we find out that she is a blood relative of King Deshret. Lastly, the one hieroglyph or symbol I wasn't able to find the meaning for is the diamond motif all over her design. It could be an extension of the triangle hieroglyph, which represents giving. It could also be a reference to primo gems, which, as stupid as it sounds, Nefer being the head of the curatorium of secrets and primo gems being the essence from which you summon characters, look more into my Durin video for more on that, could represent that she knows a lot more about this world than we think. Because we clearly use primo gems, the prima materia, to summon characters and their constellations, and her having the symbol could reference that she knows something around the secret, maybe something with the samsara cycles too, because primo gems and summoning and constellations are tied to the samsara cycles, which is tied to Sumeru, which she comes from, which she could also be a princess of. So there is also that. But also that could just be Nefer's way of telling you that summon for me. And I personally will not be listening to that because my favorite character, my first ever 5-star from 5 years ago, is getting massive buffs and I'm super excited for Venti's buffs. But yeah, that's all I had to say with Nefer's design inspirations. I'm sure there's a lot more I haven't found out or discovered yet, and when I do find out about these, I will be making another video on Nefer. That's all I had to say for this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I do have other videos on Llama, a couple of videos on Durin, and a few other videos on my channel which you should definitely check out if you like this kind of content. The Durin video especially goes really in depth into his alchemical, psychological and philosophical symbolism. But yeah, thank you so much for watching till the end. If you have any feedback, constructive, critical, do let me know in the comments. I'm new to this, and do like the video, share and subscribe. Just because you're seeing my video doesn't mean that you're subscribed to my video. Some of my videos might be recommended to you, but some might not be recommended to you. So if you don't want to miss out on my videos, do consider subscribing. And since I'm a new content creator with less than 300 subscribers at the time of recording, I could use every bit of support you can give. If you enjoy my type of content, please like, comment, share, say anything in the comments. I love reading all the comments and interacting with you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for watching till the end. More videos upcoming in the near future. I have 3 videos recorded and ready to be edited and published at the time of recording this. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and until next time,